virtual for this year. So I appreciate everybody coming this evening, and we hope that you guys get something that you can take home and use in your classes from what we do this evening. Many thanks to Aaron for organizing all of this and responding with all of the late changes and the, are we going to do slides? And I'm like, yeah, we'll do that tomorrow kind of thing, and understanding that that's just kind of how I work. So I appreciate that. We have a couple of people here that would like to say hello to everybody this evening and to welcome you. And we'll start with Dr. Chapman. Oh no, wait a minute. I messed that up, didn't I?
You did, because
yeah,
Dr. Short does not want me to take us down a rabbit hole somewhere.
Okay, so we will start with our newest member of President's Council, I think she is, Vice President and Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Christy Short.
Hey everybody, I think it's more like I don't want to have to follow Dr. Chapman, so thanks for letting me go first. But I just want to welcome you all, so thank you so much for being here. I wish we could be in person. You might have been here at that part of the conversation. We're saying we wish we could have been all together tonight, but unfortunately we cannot, but thank you.
Oh, are you
all right? I unmuted myself. Somebody muted me. Aaron, did you mute me?
I was trying to mute attendees and your name bumped up at the wrong time. Sorry.
I will continue to unmute myself if necessary, but I'll make it quick. I'll get the point. But I also want to thank you for not just being here tonight, but for being an instructor with Central Carolina Community College. I know as adjunct faculty members that you have a lot going on in your lives. You likely have other jobs. You might be in school yourself. You have family responsibilities. And so thank you for sharing your time and your expertise with us. We could not do this without you. Our students are better for your contributions, and our college is better. So we want to be loud and clear that we very much appreciate you all and everything that you do for the college and for our students and for our communities. So just a quick bit of introduction about myself. So Rodney mentioned that I am the newest member of President's Council. I've been here about 3 months, a little over 3 months now. And I started off in community colleges as a faculty member. So I started off time limited at Guilford Technical Community College, and then taught communication courses for 6 years before I transitioned into administration. And then I taught some student success courses for 1.5 years while I was in administration. So I do understand the delicate balance of trying to fit your teaching in, being responsive to students, keeping up with your email as you also have other things that you're juggling. But I also recognize that it's challenging to teach without the support that you might feel like you have more of if you're on campus, have an office right down the hall from somebody, you're on campus at a time where there are people hustling and bustling about, and you can pop in and ask a question and have easy access to resources. But I do want you to know that even if you are teaching in the evening or online, you still have lots of resources at your disposal. So you've met tonight Aaron and Rodney from the Center for Academic Excellence, and they offer lots of support, resources, professional development opportunities for you all. Some of it's recorded, some of it is synchronous live throughout the year. So please take advantage of that. Our distance education department has a lot of different kinds of training and support. They're always there to answer questions that you have. And of course, your department chair, program director, lead faculty member, deans, and I are always available to help you. So we want you to feel supported, to understand that you are a very important member of the Central Carolina Community College family, and that we are here to help you be successful and be the best faculty member that you can be. Also recognizing that Teaching right now is particularly challenging as we are still dealing with the pandemic and conditions are changing regularly as the public health situation evolves. So CCCC is offering face-to-face classes. We continue to offer in-person instruction. We are following distancing guidelines. We are requiring masks on campus, and we will be responsive to the conditions that we find ourselves in. We have very clear COVID protocols that if you have not seen those on the website, we have a nice PDF, but it's almost like a if then what kind of situation. So if you are having symptoms or a student is exposed, so it's a very clear resource for you to learn more about the college's processes and procedures as we try to keep everyone safe and maintain a welcoming environment here at the college. And I think that you'll find that emphasis on welcoming environment as you speak with other folks at the college, and Dr. Chapman, I believe, will speak to this as well, that we emphasize customer service and providing superior service to everyone, our students, and then other members of the college community and the community at large. And one of the values that we have in our strategic plan, and if you're on campus, you'll see it posted around campus. If you are online or poking around the website, then you can find it easily there too. But the value of compassion, I think, is particularly important right now. And here is a poster that you might see. I have it on blur, so you can't see it very well here. But on this, we define compassion as we recognize the challenges we all face and respond to them with empathy, understanding, and a willingness to help. And so we know that students are stressed in this time, other people are stressed, and that we need to be compassionate, be empathetic as we interact with folks, understanding that they're all coming with challenges that may be heightened during this very stressful time that we're all living in. And we continue to create a safe and welcoming environment for everyone so that they can move through the college on their way to achieve their dreams. So we aim for them to get onto a career pathway with us, learn the skills and knowledge that they need to have to succeed in that career pathway, whether that involves a short-term credential here, a certificate, diploma, degree, transfer, whatever kind of education is required for them to achieve their ultimate goal, and then go on and have that career with a family sustaining wage in a way that helps to build the prosperity of our community and the socioeconomic mobility of our citizens. So with all that said, I just want to reiterate, thank you so much for being here. We're glad that you are with us. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Dr. Chapman.
Thank you, Dr. Short. And I will tell you, she certainly emphasized everything that I would consider it to be important for us to say to you tonight. Many of you, those of you that were listening to me be listening earlier.
You want some drop?
Bless you. What you maybe heard. Am I muted again or not? No, Erin figured that one out this time. Okay. What you maybe heard is that I've been around a long time. I know a number of you. I've learned from a number of you. I learned from you in terms of watching you teach. At some point, maybe working in administration and being able to support you in your teaching. I learned from you as a colleague who helped me as an instructor learn the ropes of working in the college and do the things that we need to be able to do. And then, and there's some of you that I learned from because you taught my children. And you have been strong community members. So I will reiterate what Christy said. Thank you for everything you do for our community. And thank you for your commitment to our college and what that means to our students, which is why it's so important to our community. So as Christy said, and we talk about equitable pathways to achievable dreams. And I glanced over to make sure I said it right, because I look at our strategic plan on a daily basis. It reminds me of what I know is so important about what we do. And that is we help provide the pathways that our current and future employers need so that they can come, stay, and build here. And then what's also really important is we want to build the pathways for employers who are providing family sustaining wages for our local residents. And so we want our local residents to be able to come through us successfully and work in those jobs. If we take care of each other, she talked about exceptional customer service. We do expect that. I have had an opportunity in the last week or two to commend a couple of your colleagues for the exceptional customer service they provided. And I did commend them, but at the same time, I said, that is what we expect of each of us. And that service is not only service to our students and our community, but service to each other, supporting each other. Because if we take care of each other, then it makes it easier for us to take care of our students and then serve the community. And the only way we can best take care of you is when we know there's a need. So please do take advantage of the resources that you hear about tonight, that you learn about tonight, that you get refreshed on this evening. And don't forget, even in this pandemic fun time that we continue to have, that networking is still important. And building those relationships, maintaining those relationships, even if it requires using technology to do that, is very much worth it to you in terms of your enjoyment of your work with us and the way we support the students. And it's certainly something that we appreciate, because those of us who are here all the time and doing the jobs that we do all the time get to continue to learn from our experience with you being here. I said, students come through us, and I've told many people I stole that phrase from Scott Rawls, but I've told him I stole it, so I consider that to be okay. It's also sort of a version of what Dallas Herring, our founding father, has said, and that is that we take students from wherever they are to as far as they can go. But the other important part of that quote is we do that, as he said, because the state of North Carolina needs those folks. So it is not just about us doing people favors. It is about us helping our community to thrive and grow because of the way we can serve our students and our community. So thank you so much for everything you're doing. Thank you for your commitment of your time tonight. Thank you for the support that I know is also here tonight. And some of you have been full-time college employees for years, and we're providing the support, and you love our students so much, you're back teaching with us as adjuncts. Because you realize how valuable that experience is and how good it feels to be that difference in someone's life. And I'll close by saying I met a student this afternoon. I stopped by the drugstore and I met Shania, and she saw my name tag and she said, "Are you excited about students coming back?" And she thought I was a faculty member. We talked a little bit more. She reinforced for me how important it was that she'd had some direct engagement and support and advising and good teaching, and that it mattered to her that we were doing in-person instruction. So we want to do it as safely as we possibly can, and that's why we definitely will work to maintain social distance and have you and our students wear the masks the way we're supposed to wear them, not on our head or ear, or not as chin diapers. That complicates things, but it allows us to engage with them in person as well as virtually as necessary. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll turn it back over to Rodney.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman and Dr. Short. I think I can echo what they said a little bit, that we are here to help support you. That's what we do. One of the questions we always get asked from adjuncts is, can we participate in stuff, or why don't you have stuff for adjuncts? And we're like, we have stuff for adjuncts. We have the same stuff for adjuncts that we have for all of our full-time employees, that you're always welcome to participate in any PD session or anything else that's going on campus, with some very minor exceptions during the year. And so we always welcome you on campus. And in today's world, we've started recording most of those things as well. And Aaron will share some links later on tonight where you can access some of those things, because we do understand that your schedule doesn't necessarily make it so you can come to campus and do things sometimes during the day, but we often record those things and they're all posted. And so Aaron will share all that later on. One of the other things that Dean Byington wanted me to remind you of is that we do have workspace for adjuncts on campus, which is not the norm across the country, right? And so we've worked hard to find spaces for adjuncts to have an office with a computer and a telephone, so that they can do the tasks that they need to do for their courses. And so if you're on campus and you don't know where one is, ask your department chair or call me or Aaron, and we'll show you where it is. We'll come and find you, and we'll help you get what you need to accomplish your course. So thank you again, Dr. Chapman and Dr. Short. Aaron, are you going to go into the PowerPoints now? Or are you going to share that?
Yes.
So one of the ways that we try to recognize our adjuncts, or there's a couple of ways. One is about a year ago, Aaron and I had been trying for a long time to figure out, how do we recognize part-time employees, because there hadn't been a way to do that. We are often recognizing a full-time employee of the month, but we never recognize part-timers, and there's almost as many adjuncts as we have full-time instructors. And so we figured out a way, with a little bit of funding from the foundation, that we have an adjunct of the month, or a part-timer of the month every month when we get nominations. But then the culmination is we have an adjunct of the year. And we only have one adjunct of the year, even though we recognize that we have lots of people doing great work, and that's why we wanted to spread it out and have one a month if we could. So, so Aaron is going to play a video where we surprise the adjunct of the year this week.
Give me 1 second.
Your nominations were received and approved as the adjunct of the year for the college. So he's going to give you a plaque, and Neil's going to tell us how to do this in just a minute. But let me tell you a little bit about your nominations.
Okay.
So, and you may not even be real familiar with this, because BLET tends to go and do things so differently and always on other sites and at different times. But for a number of years now, we've always had a faculty for a lot of years. We've had a faculty member of the year. We have a staff member of the year. And several years ago, we added the adjunct of the year, because this college could not serve the students that we serve if it were not for the part-time folks that help us out. And you know that. And so what we look for in adjunct of the year are the people that are dedicated to the students, supportive of what the college needs, and ensuring that our students are prepared to serve the community. Obviously, everything you do fits that bill. And Brian, you've been working with us since about 2007.
Mm-hmm.
So you and I go back a ways, because in 2007, I was the Drew. I had, as a dean, I had BLET, and had been working with BLET for a number of years, learned a lot about
the importance of the qualified assistant, which you have been serving the last couple of years as. Learned a lot about blocks of instruction and who had to be qualified and how that had to happen, and really appreciated how important it was that we had current law enforcement officers helping us with that, because we need people who very much understand what our students are getting prepared to go into, to be able to help them be prepared. And, you know, a lot of our students come and think they already know.
Right. Oh, yeah.
You all help them with that real quick, as
That's
I recall.
right. Yes.
But you've done a lot with PT, and you've managed the night program for us. Your commendations also talked about the fact that you served as a great resource day and night, other programs, and that you're really dedicated to the students and serve as both a mentor and a great role model for them. And I will tell you that I can see that when you're engaging with the students. And of course, over the years, I have learned to appreciate the special bond that students that finish the program have with their instructors that spend so much time. I mean, as a full-time instructor, I taught a lot of students that would never have had the same interaction with me that you have to have with your students in preparing them to be ready to be sworn officers. So you've heard me talk over the years. I have, you know, my grandfather was the chief of police. My brother-in-law retired as captain in Fayetteville. Oh my goodness, in Fayetteville. Yeah. And I have several family members who serve in law enforcement. And I can't thank you enough for the extra time that you give. And we were just talking about your job and everything you do full time, the extra time you give here above and beyond. So very well deserved. Thank you so much.
So thank you to Brian. I don't know if he's here tonight, but thank you again, Brian. And we do that every year, and it's always fun to surprise people with that kind of award. So Aaron wanted me to remind you guys that closed captioning is available tonight. If you want to see the captions, down at the bottom of your screen is a little button that says live transcript. If you click on that, you can either see the transcript on the right, or you can say show subtitles, and it will show subtitles like you're watching closed caption television. So I know a lot of people like to read as opposed to listen. So we're going to move into, I know those of you who are here a little bit earlier might have heard me talking about how I'm not a huge technology fan in the classroom, but as we move into the virtual world, or as we are in the virtual world, there are lots of tools that we have that are very beneficial for our students and can help you actually engage your students a little bit more. Lots of us know about making videos for our students to watch, but have you thought about making a video that would actually engage your students and draw them into your course? And so we contracted almost a year ago now with a company that is called Playposit, and they help you build videos that are more student engaging. And so tonight we're going to spend a little bit of time with Emily from Playposit, and also we have on hand with us Dr. Jamie McLeod, from one of our instructional designers who has lots of experience with Playposit. And Playposit seamlessly integrates into Blackboard. So you can do this through Blackboard, and any kind of interaction that you have that's graded in Playposit will populate your grade book. And so we also have our Blackboard people here tonight. So Amanda Carter, Casey Patterson, and Chrissy Miller are all here this evening as well to answer any questions that you might have. So I will let Emily take it away. I think, Emily, are you the one that's going to do this?
I am. Hey, Rodney. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm Emily. Let me introduce myself real quick before we dive into the power of the platform. So I'm one of the account managers here at Playposit that has been supporting Central Carolina over as he said, almost the last year now. My focus is as an instructional design support for everyone. So if you ever have any questions along the way, want to talk about best practices or how you can transform one of your videos into a really impactful interactive video, I'm here for that sort of thing. And if you ever have any questions along the way about the platform itself, that's how I can help to support you. I am a former educator also, so I truly would have used Playposit in my classroom had I known about it years ago now. But anyway, so it's so great to be here with all of you, and thanks to the Central Carolina team for having me here today. What I wanted to do today was just introduce you to what Playposit is and show you how you can access it. Jamie is also going to be showing you later today some of the bulbs that he's been creating using our platform. We'll talk about what bulb is in just a moment, but this is just designed to give you a quick intro and a quick how you can get started with using it. So what is Playposit? If I can move on, there we go. Too far. All right, so what Playposit is we're an interactive video player. The way that we work is a little bit different though than any other interactive video players that you might be familiar with, because the way that we function is that we sit as a layer on top of videos. So I mentioned this to you because it makes it really easy once you plug in your YouTube or Vimeo video and start adding interactions. If you realize next year, maybe your video is a little outdated now, or maybe some of those questions need to be adjusted and changed just based on what you're teaching now. You can always swap things out. You can change videos, you can change questions. We're a really flexible player because we never want you to have to start completely from scratch each time. Both of our co-founders are actually former educators also who created Playposit in their classroom about a decade ago. They kept this platform with instructors in mind the entire time, given that they were using it in their classrooms once too. So we're designed to be really flexible, give you some options. You can make copies, you can swap things out. And again, just never have to start completely from scratch. So I've said it a couple of times now, but our term for interactive video is called a bulb. So you can think about it as a light bulb. This is something that you can create that really allows you to shine a light into your learners' minds and help them to understand how they're digesting content. So that's just really important to keep in mind. That's the term I'll keep saying throughout. That again is just what you will create within the platform. It is your final version of your interactive video. There are a number of different ways that Playposit can be launched. This includes through asynchronous delivery, whether you are launching a bulb that is self-paced, maybe through a playlist, maybe it's an assignment in which you want learners to actually be creating their own interactive videos. That is something else that you're able to do also. But from there, we also do provide some synchronous options. So if you're ever interested in creating like a clicker or live class response system in your class, that's something else that you can do within Playposit as well to make sure that your learners are engaged. But of course, so you can see exactly how your learners are understanding the content. So what I want to do first is I want to just show you an example of a bulb. We're going to talk through some different components of what you're going to see in this specific bulb, what some of the features are that you can include versus ones that are already going to be included as soon as you add a video into Playposit, and from this, you'll just be able to see how you can really start enhancing any videos you might already be using with just a couple of interactivity questions. So what we are going to see here is an example of a bulb. All right, so something to note before I go through and talk through some of the different interactions that you're seeing here is that, as it was mentioned earlier, Playposit integrates directly with Blackboard. So the nice thing is that your learners are going to be able to access any of these bulbs that you create as soon as they head to their Blackboard assignment. Once they get there, they don't have to log in or do anything like that. They can just click play and start engaging with the video. This bulb specifically began with a pause that was placed at the very beginning. We have 8 interaction types that can be included in bulbs, as well as a number of different templates that can be added. So something that we oftentimes recommend is starting off your bulb with a pause. This is going to allow your learners to get a quick understanding of what they can expect from this lesson. They'll be able to see exactly what sort of objectives they should be meeting, any expectations that they have as they go through this. And as you can see here, this pause that was added to this bulb simply just lets the learners know, hey, you guys should be taking notes as you're going through this lesson. In addition, you're also going to reach a discussion forum, another one of our interaction types that can be added, and give some quick instructions to let students know, again, what their expectations are, what their requirements are, and how they'll be able to do all of it. So that first instruction, that first pause did give learners some instructions to add notes on their bulb. One of the really nice things that's always going to be included in the bulbs that you create is going to be a notepad. So this notepad is going to be a place where learners can go in, take their time-stamped notes throughout a bulb, and save those for later to revisit. If they decide to go back and rewatch their completed bulb, they can actually click into the timestamps that are left with their notes and go back to that specific part of the video. But in addition, they can also download those notes. They can search those notes, and it gives them a nice all-in-one experience so they don't have a defragmented experience where they might be typing elsewhere, writing elsewhere, whatever the case might be. The added bonus of this is that you as the instructor will always be able to see what sort of notes your learners are taking. So just keep that in mind, even if you want to use Playposit in a very simple way, simply focusing on that notepad. All right, so as this learner is going through and watching this video, they are now going to reach their first interaction. Well, second interaction, technically. This is an example of a multiple choice question that was left for the learner. So as they complete this question, they're actually going to get it incorrect. We're going to pause here again because there's a couple of things to highlight here. So when they got the question incorrect, it didn't just say correct, incorrect. You'll notice they also got this extra piece of feedback here, letting them know that they were actually going to be jumped back to a certain point of the video to rewatch the introduction. Clearly, well, they got this one wrong. They might need a recap of what actually is happening here. You can keep in mind that when you are adding any questions, building any of your interactions, you'll always be able to add extra support feedback. So if that feedback is going to be achieved through a quick reminder, you can. If it's going to be achieved through adding a jump, you can do that, and we'll see what that jump looks like in just a moment. You can even add feedback that's a table or a link or a document even, if there is some sort of supporting materials that are just going to support your learners even further. All right, before we jump back, one last thing to note is that retries were enabled on this interaction. So because retries were enabled, it's going to give that learner an opportunity to go back, try that question again, of course, and that is just one of the granular settings you can apply. However, upon pressing continue, because the instructor programmed a jump into this question, the learner did have to go back and rewatch the first 10 seconds of this bulb. Given another opportunity to try again, they were able to get it correct, luckily. As we keep going, the next interaction that you're seeing included in this bulb is a discussion. So discussions in Playposit can be formatted and added wherever you'd like. If you'd like a discussion to just appear at certain topics, maybe different discussions at different topics in the video, you can add multiple discussions. If you'd like a discussion to last throughout your entire video, maybe just always giving your learners an opportunity to go back and collaborate or discuss with one another, then you can. This specific discussion forum was set up to last for a certain amount of time because during that window of time, the instructor wanted learners to be able to not only watch, but also respond if they were ready. As the learner goes in and starts responding to this question, they do have access to a rich text editor down here. So if they do want to enhance their comments in any way, add reactions, audio even, images, use our equation editor, or adjust some different formatting things, they can. They can also, of course, see their peers' comments that were left, reply to any comments, delete their comment if they need to, their own comment if they need to, and go from there. You as the instructor, of course, will be able to moderate this. You can delete comments if needed. You can respond to comments too. You can even export this whole discussion forum if you want to take this as something to kind of lead your class discussion the next day. All right, we'll take a look at just a couple more interactions before we dive into the data. Last question here that we will examine is going to be a free response question that was added. So you'll notice that this question looks a little bit different than the other ones. This one was set up to be an overlay on top of the screen. So sometimes while you're building out your questions, if you realize this one is actually a little bit more of an important point, I really need to emphasize this, you can go ahead and make your questions full screen. You can make them appear in corners of screen, on the side, wherever you want. It is totally up to you and is in your control. But as this learner does answer this free response question, they can go ahead and submit it. They can even go back and use rich text if needed and proceed with the rest of their video. All right, so that's just a quick glance at what the learner experience looks like. But what is all of this going to look like for you, and how is it going to benefit all of you as educators? So always, whenever you're using Playposit, we are going to store a ton of data for you. So everyone, each time you link a bulb in Blackboard, you're going to have this really great monitor screen that's going to show you exactly how your learners have interacted with the bulb. Maybe there's certain parts of it that they were struggling with. Maybe there's certain parts that you need to go back and cover again. You'll be able to identify all of that through the monitor screen that's provided to you. So just taking a quick look at this monitor screen, we have a number of different analytics views. If you ever just want to see at a glance how your learners have performed on each and every interaction in the bulb, you can, what their average scores were, status of completion, you can view things like that. But in addition, getting a little bit more specific, clicking into any answer cell is going to actually show you how long your learner was engaged with that specific interaction. So you can really take a closer look and examine how long your students might be spending on specific questions, if that's going to help your instruction. From there, we also have a couple of more data views. So we do have interaction analytics as well. If you ever want to focus in on exactly how your learners might be responding to a specific interaction, you can always take a quick look at that. We do have that for a few of our different interaction types. So a couple of those would be poll, multiple choice, check all of those are going to show you this nice view. All right, but a couple of other things to note here and options that you'll have access to. Our interactions range from being auto-graded interactions to manually graded interactions. Some of our auto-graded ones are those like multiple choice, poll, check all, fill in the blank, all of those, but we also do have some that you can grade manually. So if you're interested in including free response interactions, that's one that can be graded manually, leaving it up to you to actually assess any comments before giving learners credit for them. So here's an example of what it looks like to actually go in and grade some of those free response questions. We also actually have a nice grade all mode that's going to allow you to view the class as a whole and score them that way. You can now even leave comments for your learners based on their response. You can give them some actual feedback on why they might be receiving the amount of points that they are. All right, I'm going to highlight just a couple more things here. I know there's a lot. Hopefully this is exciting and not overwhelming, but something else that you'll always have access to is going to be a learner report. So to get to that, you just click on any one of your learners' names and you get this report generated for you that shows you exactly how the learner has answered each of those questions. You'll be able to see all of the interactions, all of their responses, what their score was when they completed it. You'll have all of this on a nice worksheet that can be printed, saved. It even comes with a hyperlink. And in addition, one of the settings that you can apply on your bulbs is the option to allow learners the option to get access to that worksheet when they complete their bulb, which is really nice. Very last thing here, I promise, is that you can also export all of this data. So if you're looking at this and you're like, okay, but I really just need to hold on to this, maybe I need to calculate some averages, see exactly how much time is being spent on the bulb as a whole or on specific interactions, you can export all of this and save it for your own records. On that CSV export, we give you even more data because we don't want any shortage of data here, but we'll give you even more that shows you exactly what time and date learners were starting a bulb, what time and date they were finishing a bulb, and how far they got. A lot of information can be found here. So all of that is here for you. And as I lightly mentioned, Because this can all be linked directly into Blackboard, all of this data can actually pass back directly to your Blackboard gradebook. So if you do want to use Playposit for homework assignments, review assignments, just lectures, recorded lectures, or presentations for participation, you can definitely link all of your bulbs into Blackboard. I'll show you what that looks like, and you can then have all of those grades transferred directly. All right, a couple last things before I show you how you can get to your own Playposit accounts is I mentioned earlier there are 8 different interaction types that you can include, as well as a number of templates. So these are all of the different question types you can include. But in addition, you can also do things like add some annotations and add pauses to highlight different parts of the video. Or again, set up expectations for learners. You can even embed websites directly into your bulbs. Again, the whole idea here is to provide an all-in-one comprehensive experience for learners that is not defragmented, so they don't have to go to a billion places at once to get the information that they need. All right, so how to use and build in Playposit. Some things to keep in mind that are going to be consistent among all interactions that you build. It's going to be these things. So one, you will always have a rich text editor that you can use to enhance your questions. You don't have to use anything if you don't want to, but if you're interested in adding tables, adding links, adding images, audio, attachments, there's a lot you can do. You will always have that while you're building any part of your question. You're always going to have some different advanced options also. The goal here is to give you the options so that you can really tailor and customize the experiences for your learners. You can always adjust the placement. As you saw earlier, questions can appear in the sidebar or over the screen. You can also determine how long interactions last for. Do you want interactions to just appear at static points in time? Or do you want interactions to appear for a couple minutes of your video, maybe giving your learners a chance to watch and then respond as they're going through? So those sort of things are always going to be consistent as you are building in Playposit. All right, and going back to those different interaction types, the reason we give you so many different interaction types, of course, is to really allow you to determine what your pedagogical preference is. Are you looking for learners to mostly practice some metacognitive learning abilities by using their notepad and just taking timestamped notes throughout to show you how they're understanding their lessons? Or are you looking to find more ways for learners to really collaborate or work together on different questions? Maybe adding a discussion is the right choice for you. Or maybe you're looking to do some more summative assessments, maybe using multiple choice or some of our other auto-graded interaction types is what you are looking for. So there's a whole lot that you can do. You can keep things really simple. You can keep things more, or make things more advanced. It is all in your control once you do start using the platform. All right, so what I'm going to show you today is how you can access your own Playposit account. Some of the benefits of using Playposit through Blackboard is one, it's a single sign-on sort of system, so you don't have to create a different Blackboard or a different Playposit account, neither do your learners, which is really nice. Again, grades can be passed back automatically to the gradebook, which is awesome. No need to upload rosters or anything like that. All of that will be synced between Playposit and Blackboard. And then each semester you can actually use course copy, so you don't have to relink all of your bulbs every semester. You can just seamlessly use course copy and have everything all ready to go for you. The basic workflow of building your bulbs, first you need your content, whether it's something that you are creating, or maybe it's just a TED Talk or some sort of video that you found on YouTube that you'd like to use. First step is finding your content. Your next step is adding that video to the Playposit designer and then have at it with some interactions. So let me go ahead and head to Blackboard here. We'll go ahead and access your accounts. And don't worry, if it feels like I go through this too fast, I have instructions and materials for you that you'll all receive that do go through just some different steps and things that you can consider as you're using the platform. So don't feel like you have to memorize all of this. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to head to content. And once I am in here, I'm going to go ahead and you might have to click under tools or build content. I think for my environment, it is clicking on build content, but again, you might find Playposit under tools. Please excuse the billion tools I have in here. This is our team's lovely test environment. So it always takes me a moment to actually find Playposit. This will not be the case for you. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and select Playposit. And once I do that, it's going to take me to a gray screen where I can then access my own account. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on either enter or set link. Both will take me to my own Playposit account. And once I'm there, here it is, my own account for me. All right, so My Bulbs is going to be the place where you actually build. It's going to be the place where you start linking your bulbs. It's also just going to be your own library. So if you've copied bulbs, if people have added you as collaborators to bulbs, all of those are going to be found in here. Couple places just to highlight for you before we dive into the designer, and I will leave enough time for you, Jamie, don't worry, is I'm going to go ahead and just show you a couple quick places. So first I want to highlight our pre-made bulbs area. So in pre-made bulbs, when you click on that option, rather than saying demo master district, what this is going to say for you is going to be the Central Carolina Media Library. This is a really awesome resource because any Central Carolina instructor, if they want to, can choose to share their bulbs in this library. So if someone makes a really great bulb and is like, okay, you know, I think others might benefit from either using this or at least seeing it for some brainstorming, you can determine if you want your bulb shared in here. This library is only available for those with the CCCC address. So no one else is going to be able to access this. And when you're in here, there's a few things you can do. You can search this library. So if you are a biology instructor, you can search by keyword. You can even search by YouTube URL if there's a specific YouTube video you want to see if someone has done something with. Once your search is generated, you can preview any bulbs here. You can export worksheets of any bulbs found here, which is going to show you all of the interactions that were included in their bulb in a clean, nice worksheet. There it is. But you can also make copies of these bulbs. So if you find something you really like, but maybe you need to change some things, or maybe it's just great as is, you can make a copy of this bulb and then use it in your own course. So just think of this place as a nice collaborative space for the college as a whole. And if you ever want to contribute to it, I'll show you where you can do that. All right, last place to highlight is just going to be your user profile. I highlight this just because as you do start using Playposit, the user profile is going to give you some different defaults that you can set up for yourself that can be applied to all of the bulbs that you build. All right, so definitely just keep this area in mind. You can even set up your own privacy level here by keeping bulbs private by default, or maybe sharing bulbs by default to that CCCC media library, or even share bulbs to the worldwide library that we have. I didn't actually highlight this one, but on this side is the all of Playposit library that any Playposit user has access to. So if you do want to share your bulbs there, you can. All right, let's go ahead and show you what the designer looks like real quick. So when I head to my bulbs, I'm going to go ahead and click on Add New Bulb, which is going to open me up into the Design Studio. Once I am in here, my first step again is just going to be selecting the video that you'd like to use. As I mentioned earlier, the only video sources that are available currently are going to be YouTube and Vimeo. So definitely leverage those different integrations. You can either search YouTube or Vimeo directly, or if you have a link, maybe it's a video that you've uploaded to YouTube, you can paste that URL right in. If you do click on record or upload video, those are not going to be available options, just a heads up. They were just not included with this license. So if you see a message, that's the reason why, but please use that YouTube or Vimeo integration, or just input a URL once you have that ready. My Videos is going to store any videos that you have used previously so you can quickly reuse them again. You can also upload MP3 files directly to Playposit. All right, so let me see. We'll go ahead and add this video. Okay, so once you've selected the video that you would like to use, your next step is just going to be heading to the captioning area. When you head to the captioning area, if it is a YouTube video, you'll be able to see all of those different caption files that have already been added to the video. Let's say though, maybe it's something that you uploaded and maybe you're depending on those auto-generated captions. Just click on View Available Captions and you can then select whichever ones you would like included. Okay, and once you do that, you actually will then have access to a caption editor. So if you do want to leverage that caption editor, you can now do that by just clicking into that caption file and then clicking Edit. All right, last piece of customization is if you ever want to trim or crop anything within the video, you can. Those will be options for you, just some light video editing, although we're not a video editor, those options are available. All right, and that is your first step. You've already added your video, so next up is adding some interactions. Something else just to keep in mind is that if, let's say, you have a couple of videos that you would like to include in a single bulb, you can include however many videos that you'd like. There's never going to be a time limit for how long your bulb can be. And because your bulbs will be linked in Blackboard, if your learner doesn't finish your 50-minute lecture all in one sitting, they'll be able to return back and pick right back up where they left off. So just keep that in mind. All right, to add an interaction, just click on Add an Interaction. You can drag this timestamp marker to any point in the video that you are ready to add your interactivity to, and go ahead and click. Once you do that, you will then see all of the different interaction types, again, that you can add. You also will see some different templates here at the bottom that you can explore. So let me go ahead and just quickly add a multiple choice, and we'll take a look at our templates, and then we'll wrap it up and link this. Right, so when I am building my own interaction, as I mentioned earlier, you will have access to a rich text editor. The first time you will see this is when you click into your question area. All right, so as soon as I click in to start typing my question, I now have options that are going to allow me to really customize this. So if I want to do things like change formatting, use the equation editor, we have a LaTeX equation editor, add images, add audio, add attachments, you have a lot of things you can do. But there's more. So if you click on your triple dot menu, you have even more. You can do things like make a table within your question. Whatever you need to do to support your learners, you can. All right, we'll add a quick question here. Add a couple of responses. I suppose it is August right now somehow. And we'll just add. All right, March. Okay, so again, you can keep things really simple here. You can simply select your correct answer and call it a day. If you'd like to explore some of the more advanced capabilities, you can do things like click into the settings here and do things like add feedback for certain responses. Again, you have the ability when you add feedback to use that rich text editor again. So if you do have some sort of other supplemental feedback for your learners, you can add that. You can do things like add jumps, but you also are going to have some more advanced settings down here. These advanced settings, again, will just let you really customize that specific question. All right, and again, you can choose the placement of your questions. If you'd prefer them to be on the screen, that is fine. If you want them to just stay in the sidebar, that works too. I'm going to go ahead and click on customize one more time, which is our timing area. If you ever need to do any adjustments, you can, and I'll just click on done. All right, last thing here is, of course, applying points to your interactions. You can apply between 0 and 10 points for every single interaction type here. So totally up to you how it is structured. And just one quick note is you don't have to make sure that your Blackboard assignment and your bulb are worth the same amount of points. Playposit will do some calculating on the back end to make sure that your learner receives a score that's equal to their Blackboard assignment's worth. So just a quick note. All right, very last thing is your template gallery. So this template gallery is going to be a place where you can add some ready to go templates. We have some really great ones in here. They're designed just to allow anyone to quickly add some effective engagement. So if you want to focus on the notes, on the learner experience, giving your learners some quick tips and instructions, using the discussion template, adding any of our assessment-based templates also, you can. Please explore those. Again, it's just a really easy way to get familiarized with the platform and add some quick, easy engagement. All right, last thing is reviewing this bulb. When you review your bulb, you can do things like add tags for your own organization needs. You have different playback options that you can apply also that will apply to the entire bulb. And of course, you can adjust your privacy setting as well. I'm going to go ahead and just save this bulb, but I do always suggest previewing just so you can see what that final product will look like. And when I return to Blackboard, there we go. All right. I'm going to see now the bulb that I just made at the very top of my list. I'm going to go ahead and link this. So when I click on the Blackboard icon, it's going to take me to this screen. Slow internet, apologies, where I can then choose the learner experience. I'm going to go ahead and just click linked. We're going to focus on self-paced today. And when I do that, we're now going to see a screen that, when I head back to that assignment, there it is. All right, we're going to see a gray screen that is going to indicate that my bulb has been successfully linked. I'll know that because it is going to be a gray screen that allows me to preview the bulb, download analytics of the bulb, or monitor the bulb, which is where I can get back to that monitor screen I showed you earlier. So that is the process. Again, I have information and a whole handout for you all that will be sent later on that goes through all of these steps, as well as showcases some different sort of examples and use cases that you can take a look at also. But the very last thing before I pass it off to Jamie to show you is if you're looking for some extra resources, anytime you are in your Playposit account, we actually just released a brand new partner resources page. So this is going to be found the first time and anytime you access your account in your sidebar, you will see a partner resources tab. Clicking on this is going to take you to all of the great partner resources that we have to offer. So we have something called Playposit Academy that if you felt like after today, maybe I went a little bit too fast or you just need a quick refresher, you can click into Playposit Academy and take our Blackboard Playposit Academy to go through those steps again. You can also attend any of our webinars. Our team does host webinars regularly throughout the year. We just ran a webinar today on broadcast, and our next few are focusing on how you can use Playposit in in-person instruction or online instruction. If you want to see some more examples of how Playposit can be used, you can check out our use case library that includes a number of different use cases that dive into exactly what sort of interactivity is being used, why. You can even copy the bulbs that you find in here. And then last couple of things is if you ever have any questions, we have a number of different help and knowledge base articles, but our team also hosts instructional design office hours. So 2 times a week, you are more than welcome to attend these office hours. They are unstructured time, so you can ask any of your questions, maybe meet others from other partnered universities and get some ideas there. If you ever have any questions, though, please feel free to reach out to me directly. It is just emily@playposit.org. Okay. And I'm here to support you too. But I do want to pass it over to Jamie at this point, who has actually been using Playposit since the beginning of this partnership.
Okay, thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Just let me hold on 1 second. I want to share my screen. But can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. So let me share this. So what
Jamie,
she's saying, I'm sorry, I froze a little bit. I might have to kill my video here if, okay, let me share. Can everybody see what I'm sharing?
yes.
Okay. So for you and your Blackboard courses, what you can do is well, okay, can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So what you want to do with Playposit is you need to bring activity into your courses with your resources or with your lectures or whatever you're recording for your online videos. So I want to show you an example of what I've done with it. So this was in my Math 130 class, and I record lectures for my students to watch, and then I would give them a quiz on the lecture. And so it was a two-step process for the students. They had to watch the video, and then they had to take a quiz. And so what Playposit allowed me to do was integrate both of those into one item. So I would take my lecture video like this, where I would just talk over a PowerPoint with my video on it. Questions like anything that's catching them, maybe are they paying attention? Was there some key concept that I talked about that I want to make sure they understand? So if you just put a YouTube video up in your course and tell them to watch it, you really don't know what they're getting from that video unless you quiz them separately. So here you can actually stop it right at the content point you want to, and then you can ask them to double check, were they listening? And then they can move on after they answer the questions. And so for this class in particular, it uses a lot of software. So I do a lot of screencasting. So it let me do these screencasts because these are critical things for them to know. And then it let me pause throughout to make sure that they're paying attention, because later on in the labs, they're going to have to be able to do these steps or they won't be able to do the lab successfully. So all I did was ask them some basic multiple choice questions throughout the process, just to check to see if they were understanding what I was saying. And so, but you wouldn't have to do this with just lectures. You could do this with your syllabus. So at the beginning of your class, you could do an introduction video that talks about your syllabus. And as you talk about key areas, you might stop it and then ask for them to confirm that they understand your late policy. Confirm about what percentage the essays are worth, or different things like that, or what's unique and important to your class. You could also go over the technology or the items that they need for the class. If you have special things they need to buy, if there's special software they need to download, you could do another introduction video with it to make sure that they confirm, yes, they understand, these are the things that I need to get. And then you have it. As Emily was showing you, you actually have a record of that they said they understood this process. So if you have a lot of complicated processes at the beginning of your class, this is a way to get that confirmation from the students that they understand. Another really cool use of Playposit you can do is for existing YouTube videos that you might have in your course. So if you use YouTube videos as a resource in your course, you can actually take this link in YouTube and put it into Playposit and then put questions in that video. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a video that you made, although I would encourage you to make videos with Playposit. You could just take what you're doing now, an existing resource, and then insert questions inside of it to make sure your students understand. And it's a really effective way to take a resource that you're just not sure that they're understanding or viewing, and then turning it into even an assignment that you could grade in the grade book. And it gives them confidence and you confidence that they understand what it's doing. Another idea that I used it for was for the labs, like I showed. So I had specific labs where they were called simulation labs, where the students would go in to a computer simulation and set up different kinds of environments. So it was a type of a networking type environment. And so what I would do with these is, before they started, I would show them the simulation. I would show them the steps in the lab. And if there were any parts in the lab where I knew the students usually get confused at, I would go ahead and highlight those and try to clarify anything that might have trouble. So you might want to think about, what are some problems that your students have had in the past? What are some of those emails you've gotten? What are some of the phone calls you've gotten with certain types of assignments that you have? And you seem to get them every single semester. You might even say to yourself, you know, here come the emails about the students never know how to do X or Y. And so what you could do is you could make a Playposit before that assessment, and you could make sure they watch it. And you could go over these common misconceptions that students have. Maybe they make the same mistakes over and over. Most students skip over this certain important step. They always seem to miss this important concept. And so if you've got a pattern of that over the years, Playposit is a great tool to go in there and record something and check with them and make sure that they understand, okay, I know this is going to be a potential problem and I understand, and then just have them agree to it. So you can even put something as simple as yes, no questions that will pop up. You know, do you understand that you have to write at least five sentences in a paragraph? Do you understand that you have to have an introductory sentence? Do you understand you have to have these 3 tools before you can begin the lab? So whatever it is you teach, you could go ahead and set them up for success by having them watch that video. And you could even tie that into a grade to ensure that students view the material. So I'm very excited about Playposit, and I would encourage everyone in here to at least try with an existing YouTube you have in your course. So most of you in here probably have at least one YouTube video in your course. And I would encourage you to go into your classes and think about how you can make that video more interactive. Sit there and watch the video. And as you watch it, think about, wow, students, that's really the part I want the students to get out of this. Maybe it's a 5-minute video, but there's really 3 major concepts you want them to take from it. So use Playposit as an opportunity to actually show them, insert those points. Hey, this is an important point. You know, you could even ask them, did you catch that? What do you think the author meant by this? And so it just kind of gives them a heads up that, oh, this is a really important. Encourage you, go through your course, look at some of these videos and try to make some Playposits. And I believe it's going to be a really good tool for you to use. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. And I wanted to give an opportunity. Did anybody have any questions specifically about Playposit?
You can either raise your hand and talk, or you can type it into the chat box, right? So,
Jamie, I have a question for you.
Yes.
If adjuncts have questions about Playposit, can they possibly talk to someone about that if they want to come to the open lab tomorrow night?
Absolutely. I would be glad to answer your questions. And, you know, when you go in your course, as you're experimenting with your resources, you know, if you have a question, send me an email and I'd be glad to take a look at it for you. If you're thinking about doing something, but you're not sure if it can do that, I'd be glad to help you with that.
What is your email, Jamie?
So it's jmcleod@cccc.edu. I'll put it in the chat.
And his office is right next to mine. His office is 9144, is that right? In Marchant Hall. So it's on the first floor of what we used to call the science building. It's now called Marchant Hall. So feel free to stop by almost any time and he will help you with that.
Yeah, so someone said in the chat that the students have to watch it completely to get a score, and that is true. That is true.
Yeah, so I think that's why one of the things that they recommended to us, like the first one I went to, was put an assessment question at the end of the video. That way they know they're finished. It'll tell them, you know, hey, in order to finish this video, you must answer this question, right? So that's often a good tip.
We also, just one more tip, we also just recently this year released a learner experience template. That template walks students through what they can expect, including the fact that they do need to reach the very end of a bulb to get marked as complete. So you can find that in the template gallery that I showed you guys in the designer, but I definitely recommend adding that to the first couple of bulbs that you build, just so that students can be aware of that.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
And thanks, Jamie. And Emily, often we meet with Emily once a month, once every couple of weeks. I don't remember. It's on my calendar. But she so if anybody has questions and we're not able to answer them, we can get up with Emily and she will definitely answer them for you. So, but Jamie has lots of experience using this, so we appreciate that, you guys. So thanks for coming this evening and sharing. I think we're going to go ahead and move into the next segment. Aaron wanted me to remind you that if you're logged into Zoom this evening and your name is not appearing, and let's say that on you show up as an iPad or an iPhone or some other thing, or only your first name is there, in order for you to get, if you're an adjunct and you're going to get paid for this, we need you to type your name into the chat box. So if we can see your name, it's fine. Like I see Mary Watson, that's fine. That's good. But if we don't see your name, if your name is some other thing that we can't recognize you, please type your name in the chat box so you can get credit for coming tonight. And because it's being recorded, we'll know who's here. So we're going to move into a section that's about teaching. And Aaron, you want to share the slides? Okay. I call this defining teaching to help close equity gaps in your classroom. So thank you, Tracy, for putting your name in there. A number of years ago, before I became executive director for the Center for Academic Excellence, I started thinking about what is great teaching and how do we help instructors become great teachers. And I read a book that was called What the Best College Teachers Do, and it's by a person by the name of Ken Bain. It was written in 2004. It's getting pretty old now, but the information that is in there is still incredible information. I highly recommend it. It's available on YouTube. It's not that expensive. I can hold it, or not on YouTube, on Amazon. It's about, I don't know, hardback copy is about $20 because it's so old. But it really gave me an insight as to what great teaching is. And then I started looking around to see what other people are doing, and I made some connections in the state. One of which was with a person by the name of Peter Felton. He's now an associate provost at Elon, and he has done lots of research in what great teaching is and how to define great teaching. And he just came out with a brand new book. I don't even have a copy of it yet, but I just ordered it. It's called Relationship Rich Education and How Human Connections Drive Success in College. And so that kind of tells you where we're going this evening and how I define great teaching. It's dealing with human connections. And so we think about great teaching and we have these tools like Playposit, but what are we really trying to do with something like Playposit? We're trying to recreate a lot of that classroom one-on-one environment because we know that there's some value in that. Another book that I don't have listed here is one that I was talking about earlier, was with Mr. Nixon is a book that I have in my office, and I read it, and it's called Teaching Naked. And it actually talks about removing a lot of the technology from your in-person classes, not your online. Online is impossible to remove all the technology from, obviously. It talks about removing technology so that you can work on building those faculty to student relationships and the student to student relationships. And you go, well, that's great, and it sounds all cool and touchy-feely. How do we know it really works? And there's a link to an article on here that appeared in Inside Higher Ed, and they presented at Achieving the Dream conference this year. And it talks about a community college in, I think they're in Illinois, called Oakton Community College. And they did a study on student persistence. And the results of that study are in this article, kind of limited. He goes into a lot more detail in the book, but it really boils down to, Aaron, if you can go to the next slide, 4 factors. There are 4 steps or 4 factors that we know that if you do as an instructor in your classroom, it'll really help to close those equity gaps in your classroom. Do you know? All right, let's back up. Does everybody know what an equity gap is? And why do we want to close them? You can type it in the chat box. Aaron, you can turn off the slides. Anybody want to type in the chat box what an equity gap is? Or you can turn on your mic and tell me. I'm trying to be interactive, guys. Come on. What's an equity gap? What does it mean?
I believe an equity gap is that which you ensure that all of the students are learning what you're teaching. So therefore, you look at the student in your classroom who might be what I would like to call, quote unquote, a C student, and ensure that that student is just as informed as what I would call a quote unquote an A student.
Yeah, and really what we're looking at is to see if there's any trends. Are all the C students a certain demographic? So maybe they're all low income, maybe they're all first gen students, maybe they're all Asian students, maybe they're all males, maybe they're all females, maybe they're all Black students. What is causing some of those gaps? And so we can actually pull numbers. Someone might have less access to resources. Yeah, there's lots of reasons that there can be gaps in performance, right? And on a one-on-one student, we might be able to close some of those gaps just by helping them with resources. We're really talking about larger scale things, about what happens in your class if, like, I had them look at my equity numbers in my class when we first started this conversation. Is that there's a void, there's a gap, right? So Beverly said that there's a gap. Yes, I had them look and see if there are any gaps in my class. I teach chemistry. And as it turns out, there are some, okay? It turns out that students, Black males underperform everybody else in my class, okay? So it's like, so why do Black males underperform everybody else in my class is the question. And we have to start to become aware of that. And we have to think about how we can try to close those gaps, because there's no reason intellectually that they should, right? I mean, they have the ability, but they're not performing at that level. So why is that? And so at Oakton Community College, they started and they figured, let's try this. Let's try these things. And they had lots of meetings, and they came up with 4 things that they think are really valuable to help closing their equity gaps. And they have the data to show that after a year, it did. It didn't make them perfect, but it really did help. Anybody want to guess what the most important thing you can do in your classroom to help close the equity gaps in your classroom? So to bring underperforming students up to a higher level. What's the number one thing you can do in your class? Build positive relationships. Okay, thanks, Charity. How do you do that? Reduce costs. Yeah, actually, cost didn't have a whole lot to do with it, believe it or not. It's about relationships. Well, how do you build that relationship? Oh, Laura, why are all the full-time people answering the questions? Laura Long, department chair for math and science. She's heard me on, I don't know how many times, tell people, Do you know your students' names? Learn your students' names. Why does that make a difference? Who cares if you know my name? I'm sitting in this classroom with, well, we're a community college, so you might have a big class, you might have 48 in it. Why does it matter if you know their name? Why does it matter if you know a student's name and pronounce it correctly? Absolutely. Learn the name and learn how to pronounce it. Patrick says invest in them. It shows you care. Thanks, Mary. It does. It really shows you care, right? If I don't know your name, am I going to do anything for you? Or if you don't know my name, I feel like I'm anonymous in the class, right? Okay. It's respectful. Absolutely, it's respectful. It shows your student that you value them enough to know their name. That's pretty simple, isn't it? That's relatively trivial. Now, it's not always easy to learn names, though. I struggle with it sometimes. Okay. So we're getting lots of great stuff in the chat, and we're capturing all this. So we're gonna we will have this available for everybody. So anybody have any tips on how to learn names? Anybody want to share how you learn names in your classroom? Come on, some of you have been around for a while. It makes people feel like they're not a number. That's right. Because when they go to if they transfer and go to a big university and they're in there with 300 people, right? Repeat it 3 times at each interaction. That's a good one, Charity. Keep pictures if they're available. Yep.
I also find that if you were to take attendance each day and call people name, you really get a beautiful understanding of their name, and it also lets them know that you're concerned about them, and you don't know where they are. You want to know where they are and how they're doing, and that's a good way to interact with the students, is by a simple thing, by taking attendance.
Absolutely, take attendance, at least for the first couple of weeks, right, until you get all the names down. Absolutely. I agree with that. And Kimberly Knight, I don't know Kimberly. Maybe she's related to our other instructional designer, Lisa. I don't know. Have something associated with their first name, right? You can actually do a quick assignment in the very first class that does what? Ask for their name, ask why they're taking your class, and ask them to tell you something about them that's unique, that you can then hopefully associate back to their name, right? Names are so important in the world, and absolutely pronouncing it correctly. If you get your roster before the first day of class and you don't know how to pronounce a name, look it up. Google's an amazing thing. I've looked up several names in the last couple of years, and when I say someone's name correctly and they didn't think you were going to say it correctly, oh my gosh, their face just lights up, right? Every time you call on them, use your name. Labs are easier, Greg, absolutely, because you get to interact with people so well, right? Well, welcome, Kim, even though you're a new adjunct. Kim, you go by Kimberly or Kim, but thank you and welcome. Some people use tricks like name tents, right? So they take a piece of cardboard or paper, thick paper, and they have them put their name on it, and they put it in front of them, right? They have the students make them. They call them name tents. There's a program called Avid. They call them name tents. I'm not a big fan of them because I tend not to look at the table where their name is. I look at their eyes instead of the table, because I'm not looking down, I'm looking at their face. So name tents don't work with me, but some people find them really useful. Okay. So there are lots of different strategies for learning names. I like the one saying the name 3 times, taking attendance. What if you gave an assignment the first day and you gave it back the next time? Right? That's one way you could take attendance. You call their name to give them their assignment back, and then you looked at them when you gave their name, right? So absolutely. I'm trying to keep up with the chat. It's going pretty fast. So and giving that assignment, that first class, is important. Not necessarily the first class, but within the first couple of weeks. There's 4 things that you can do. Learn their names is by far the most important. Absolutely, you have to do that within the first couple of weeks of class. Another thing that you should be doing in your class is giving formative assessments. Formative assessments, anybody want to define formative assessment for me? Even though we're not in the education realm, right? We teach. So what's a formative assessment? Anybody want to define formative assessment? Anybody? Let's see. Formative assessment is kind of a preliminary assessment. Yeah, it's an informal check, preliminary assessment, low stakes, right? All words we might use with the formative. You're checking to see, do they understand something? Okay, so you give that, but here's the most important part of giving it. You take it and you grade it and you put some meaningful feedback on it. Not just like -5 or this is terrible or great job, or put something meaningful. Hey, I see that you learned this step here. Great job. Or, hey, you didn't quite get this. You might want to think about it in this manner. Once again, it's just like names, right? You can use it to alter your instruction formative assessments, right? Oh man, I gave this assessment and nobody understood it. I sure don't want to test them on it yet. I want to make sure that most of the class understands it. So let's go over it again, right? But when you give that feedback, it does the same thing that learning their names does, right? It improves their confidence and it shows that you care enough to grade it. You didn't just give it to them so you can give them a grade. We're not here to give grades. We're here to help them learn material, right? Feedback is incredibly important. It shows that you're going to put in the work like they do. If you don't give your assignments back in a timely manner, it means what? What does it mean about that assignment, that assessment? You didn't care about it. So why should they care? They pick up on that. They know. Okay. So that's the second thing. Now, on day one, I do this in class. And I tell my students all the time, I'm hard as an instructor because I expect a lot out of you. Okay. I expect you to do the work. I expect you to learn this material. I expect you to get to this certain level. But also because I expect that, I'm willing to put in all that extra work that it'll take to get you there. My door is always open. Stop by any time. If I'm not in a meeting, you're welcome to come in. There's 3 chairs in my office now. You used to only have 1. Come in, sit down, and we will work on whatever we're working on doing in class. Okay. If you're teaching virtually, how do you do that? Well, you're available for email. You can use, we were talking earlier today about Google Voice. Use Google Voice. If you don't want them texting your personal cell phone, which I don't, set up a Google Voice account. They love the text, right? I mean, heck, they do it while they're sitting in class. They probably do it while they're watching your Playposit videos. Set up a Google Voice, let them text you, right? If they're in your video and they go, oh, I don't understand that, they're sitting there texting. Well, that's the old school, right? Now they have a keyboard. This was when you had to do all the things, right? Yeah, so Mary Schmidt says Google Voice is great. Yeah, lots of people really like Google Voice because it doesn't connect to your personal cell phone. It connects to your email, right? So it'll come into that. Yeah, and they love text and emojis. Yeah, if you're a good emoji person, go for it. It's another way that they understand it, right? Okay. So does that make sense? So those are our first 3. I have to repeat them. Learn their names. There is nothing you can do that is more important than learning someone's name. Okay? It shows you care about them as a person. Makes them an individual. They're not part of the collective. As I was prepping for this today, I just Googled like learning students' names. And something came up. There's an article it came out like 2 or 3 years ago. They're still doing research on this in classes. It works not only in small classes, it works in very large classes. it works. They did a study at a university. I don't remember what university it was, someplace in California. Somebody was doing a biology class where they had 150, 200 students in the class. The students that passed the class thought that the instructor knew their name on average. The ones that failed or dropped, they thought the instructor didn't know their name or didn't care about them. Okay. That's in a large lecture section. Fake it if you don't know it. I teach some sections that have 48 in them. I learned students sprinkled around the classroom by doing association type things. And then I know enough of them so that I can talk to every student in the class pretty much. Okay, so there's some tricks you can do to learn names. Most important, learn names. Number 2, formative assessment with meaningful feedback in the first 2 weeks of class. Number 3, high academic expectations, but also the fact that you're here to help them meet those expectations. Not only you, but the college as a whole has lots of things that you can send them to do. We have tutoring. We have a writing center. We have all kinds of online tutoring, Upswing and other things. You're here for them. We have remediation for some classes. We have lots of stuff to help support them. We have TRIO. We have, oh my goodness, now I start drawing blanks, but we have financial aid. We have a food pantry. We have librarians. We have so many things. We have success coaches. Thank you, Ms. Babb. Right? Success coaches are there to help them find whatever resources they need, right? And to help them get them back on track. Yeah. So what else can we do? So that's the third thing. There's a fourth thing that I recognize as an adjunct is going to be tough to do. But the people at Oakton thought that it was probably the most important thing. I disagree with it. I think that learning names is the most important, particularly in a seated face-to-face environment. The fourth thing is to meet with your student outside of class, one-on-one for 10 minutes in the first few weeks of class. I know some departments are already doing some of that. I know that some of our English instructors do that routinely because they're trying to help the students learn how to write. And it's valuable for them to sit down with the student one-on-one, give them formative feedback, right? The meetings that they were talking about at Oakton doesn't have to be anything academic. They come to your office or you see them someplace else on campus, you meet with them for 10 minutes and you just talk to them as a person. I don't know what you talk about. Some of us aren't comfortable doing that, right? Yes, Summerlin says a 2 to 3 minute meeting, collaborate does a lot. It does. Anything that you can do personalized with them one-on-one shows that you care. We talked, or Dr. Chapman talked earlier about the strategic plan that we're, as a college, that we're working on. The strategic plan guides what we do as a college. And if you go and look at it, there are some values that are attached to that strategic plan. Those values don't say anything about being able to do stoichiometry in my class. They don't say anything about being able to write a 10-page research paper. But they do talk about things like community and relationships. Okay, those are the things that we value. And you heard Dr. Chapman talk about customer service, right? When you're with that student is your customer. We are a company, for lack of a better word, and our customers are the students. And for them to believe that we care about them is the right thing to do. And one of our deans said the other day, if you're not willing to do that, to build those relationships and to help our students, then it's almost like you're committing educational malpractice. Because we know what it takes. Now we have to implement it. Okay. And those are my 4 things that I would love to see everybody try in your class. Learn the names, high academic expectations, but but they have to know you're here to support them and that the college is here to support them. A formative assessment with meaningful feedback, and then a one-on-one meeting. And be human. I have someone behind me that is annoying me. She keeps bothering me right now. Now she don't want to be up here. She keeps poking me from behind. So if you can do that in your class, you are a long ways. Those of us that teach full-time, we know that last year when we went to Collaborate, if you shared an animal in your class, it was instant good class because the students now were paying attention, right? Yeah, thanks, Gabe. Oh, that's Katie. I'm sorry, Katie Godwell. I guess I could put my glasses on so I could see the screen better. It's a perfect animal. That one is not perfect. So, but she's okay. So does anybody have any questions about these 4 things that I wish you would do in your class? Does anybody have any suggestions for how to do any of them in your class? I wish we had more time and we would do some activities. If we were in person, we were going to do some activities with this. Anybody have any suggestions about how to accomplish these things in your class? Because I love learning from you guys as much as I know y'all don't want to hear from me anymore. Anybody? Yes, we are going to take a break, Mary, in just a minute. I did watch hip hop as an educating resource. Absolutely. There are some, Leela Rao teaches in vet med. She also teaches some biology for us. Yeah, hip hop can be used. I mean, there are people that write hip hop lyrics for their courses and all sorts of things. So yeah. So there are lots of great videos out there for all kinds of areas doing hip hop, right? Sounds ideal for in-person, but how do you build relationships for online courses? That's a great question. And that's a $64 million question for online courses, isn't it? I just scrolled past that. Who's Sharon? Yeah, that's why we are starting to develop tools like Playposit. And using Playposit with the video that you found online or that you got from YouTube is okay, but how do you start to build those relationships in your class? You have to be part of that class, right? The instructor has to be in the class. Instead of just putting in assignments or putting in kind of a cookie cutter announcements, what if you make videos with your own face in them so that they see you? And in that video, you use people's names in the class, right? I mean, that's a good start, right? I don't have the answer for all online teaching because online teaching and connections is hard. It's the hardest thing that you can do, okay? Yeah, but being in the online environment, you have to make the instructor very visible in the course. That is probably the biggest secret that we know of. It's not a secret. It's just takes time and energy to do it, for sure. Yeah, and Debbie says she does one-on-one via Collaborate. Absolutely. Yeah, any kind of online meeting you can do. You know, what I found with students in the online world is they don't like to turn on their camera or their microphone. So it makes it tougher, for sure. But it can be done. If you're the only one in the room with them, even if it's by Collaborate or Google Meet, it's still a one-on-one and they see that you value them enough to come to that thing, right? Students love Google Chat. Yeah, because Google Chat's just like texting pretty much, right? And so if you're taking the time to text with somebody, well, I don't answer people's texts that I don't care about, right? They know that. Well, they might not know it intellectually, but they understand that because they do it all the time too. They ignore people's texts. Okay. Enjoy chatting before and after class. Absolutely. Yeah. So that 5 minutes before class starts, if you're doing Collaborate, you can very informal talk about how their day is going, talk about your animals, right? So not only I have a cat behind me poking me, I have a big black lab laying on my feet right now too. Right? So those are the kinds of things you can talk about in your class. Just ask them how they're doing. Look at their face. If you're teaching in person and your students walk in and you don't do an assessment on them every day, then you're not teaching to the best of your ability. Okay? Use the Sarah Newcomb says, use the Remind app with the CCP students. Yeah, they're used to using apps like Remind. Remind is a free app you can get, and the students sign up for your class, and you can send them messages. It looks just like texting almost, except it's in an app. Okay. I've tried using Remind, and I get about 50% success. The younger ones particularly like it because they're so used to it in high school, for sure. We are going to take a break. I hope you understand what I'm trying to get at and where I want you to go with your teaching this semester. If you want to talk more, I'm here and I'm always happy to talk about teaching. Come see me in my office, email me, call me. I'll give you my cell phone number at some point if you call me, and I'll give you my cell phone. You can call me directly there. But let's talk about teaching. I think it's the most important thing that we do. You are the people that meet our customers routinely on a regular basis. And that's what we need. We're going to take about a 5-minute break. And then, Aaron, are you going to share that sheet with them again that takes them, will give them the links to take them to their department meetings?
Yes, but we had a couple other things to share too. Do you want to do that now or?
Let's take a 5-minute break and then let's come back and share that, and then we'll send them to the department meetings. How's that?
Okay.
Sound good? So everybody quick, run. Be back in 5. I'm looking down the list of participants trying to figure out who I know and who I don't know. Kimberly Wine, you're the last one in the chat box. Are you still here? English, okay. Well, Summerall, in the last year, I mean, we didn't meet anybody the last year. Yeah, I know. Okay. Who else? I'm going to go down the list. Who is Jay Carville? Oh, I love who is Jay Carville? Sometimes a student just needs their instructor to listen and show empathy. Joanne Carville, Human Services. Okay. With Thea, I take it, right? With Thea Boyer. Nice to have you, Joanne. And that's absolutely true. I could talk about teaching all day long because I think it's so important. I think it's all about relationships. A number of years ago, we were at the Civic Center doing late registration, and Dr. Long said to me, I had a student come and need help, and Dr. Long said, well, that's it right there. And I said, what? She goes, you just talked to that. You didn't know that student from Adam, and you talked to them like they were the only person in the world. And I listened to what they were telling me, their problems and how they need to schedule their courses and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, they just want somebody to listen sometimes. That's it. Because they might not have anybody else at home. Absolutely. I'm going to find the list of participants. I don't know so many of these people. Who's Tracy Notley? Tracy, are you here? What do you teach, Tracy? No, not here. Shelby, are you here? Shelby Parrott? Dental, okay. Tracy teaches Drama 111 and Tracy. Yeah, I've met Tracy Messimer before 2 years ago when we had when we did Adjunct night, the last in-person one. I'm just gonna randomly look and see if I know people. Who's this guy, Mike Beck? What does he do? Courtney Sharp's name just popped up on my screen. I know her. Hi, Courtney. Courtney, you're now going to be quiet. You can unmute and talk. I know you want to. Hi, Dr. Beck.
Good afternoon. How's it going?
Good. And you, sir?
Good. Thanks.
See, he can't stay away from CC. He went instead of staying up at Wake Tech, he wants to stay here with us. Courtney Sharp, you're not going to talk to me?
I'm trying.
You're trying?
Yes. How are you tonight?
I'm good. And you?
I'm doing well. Sorry, my phone is acting up.
Okay. I heard you were actually going to be the lead instructor on a course this semester.
Oh, goodness. Yes, sir, I am. I'm very nervous about it, but excited.
It's kind of a good nervousness. It like motivates you and excites you all at the same time, doesn't it?
It does. Yes, sir.
I bet you'll be awesome. I bet you'll be awesome.
I
So,
appreciate it.
yeah. So, I actually taught Courtney a number. Well, we're not going to say how many years ago, are we, Courtney?
No,
A few years back.
it's been a few years.
Yeah. So she was a great student, and it's really good to see her back teaching. So, and I've heard really good things about your teaching. So that's awesome. So,
Well, I appreciate that.
is it time for us to go? Oh, I see Andrea Hyatt. I'm not going to say that I taught her, but I did. Dental again, right, Andrea? Aaron's like, shut up, stop talking. We have a schedule to keep too.
That you've already blown, and now everybody's gonna be mad at me for keeping them late.
No, we're done. I'm done. Go.
Okay, I don't know if everybody's back yet, but before I share the few things I had to share, I'm still missing some names. I direct messaged everyone whose name I am missing. We are still doing the stipend for tonight, so if you want that extra $50 in your next paycheck, I need your name. So if you haven't seen my message, go to the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom window, and in the very middle, you should see a little bubble that says chat underneath it. So click that to open the chat box, and you should see a direct message from me asking for your first and last name. So please just type that in there so that I can have a full attendance report. If your first and last name are already showing, then I've got it, and you're good to go. So moving on, I just very quickly wanted to show you and tell you about a couple new resources. Let me share my screen right quick. Let's see. Okay, I'm sure most of you have seen this before. Can everybody see my Blackboard screen?
Yes.
So this, if you open up your Blackboard and click on organizations, you'll see professional development at the bottom. And we've got all of our recorded professional development sessions that we have throughout the year are over here in this first content area in the gray menu on the side, and it's organized by semester. So by the end of next week, there will be a new folder up here for fall sessions. So this week, you've probably seen my emails about welcome week sessions. We've had a lot of great sessions already, and there's more to come tomorrow. And I'll also include the recording from tonight's event in that folder. So I just wanted you to know where these resources are. And also under faculty resources, there's several folders, and then there's a specific one for adjunct faculty that has some different training videos and handbooks. And one of our program directors, Thea Boyer, has developed an amazing course for all of her adjunct faculty that she has allowed me to steal some of those videos and resources. So I'm going to be adding those in on this page over the next week, and I will share an email with all of the adjunct faculty once those are there. but we've got a lot of great resources in here for you to use as a reminder of, you know, some of those things you've got to take care of the first few weeks of class. There's also lots of Playposit videos in the technology training. And Emily, that you heard earlier, just shared a bunch of Playposit webinar recordings with me today. So I'll be adding those in there as well. Let me switch my screen right quick.
And Aaron, not all of those are captioned yet, but we are working on getting all of them captioned as well for those that like to have captions in their videos. So hopefully by the end of the fall, we'll be caught up on that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And also on the topic of resources, we just became a member of NISI, the National Institute for Staff and Organizational Development, and adjunct faculty and part-time staff can take advantage of this too. There is the username and the password. If you go to nisi.org, there's a login in the top right corner. You just enter in that information, and there's tons of resources and, you know, pre-recorded sessions and things coming up this fall that are already scheduled. And Ronnie and I are going to be working over the next few weeks to package some of that and deliver some specific content to you, but you're welcome to browse that website on your own. And lastly, before I share the links for the department chair meetings, we value your feedback for Adjunct Night. I don't know if we've mentioned yet that we plan to have one of these. I think I actually mentioned it in the survey, but we plan to do an Adjunct Night in January this coming semester. That's the first time we've ever done a spring Adjunct Night. So there's a place in this survey for you to tell us what would be helpful for you, you know, what topics or training we can include in the January 2022 Adjunct Night. So I'll also share the link to this if you don't have a QR reader, but please take a few minutes to do that survey. And I'm going to post so many of your department chairs have probably reached out to you over the last few days. Typically when we have this event in person, we have about 15 minutes or so for department chairs to meet with their adjuncts, you know, on one-on-one or a smaller group basis at the end. But since we're meeting virtually, we created breakout groups and collaborate for each department. Now, some department chairs have already met with their folks or have emailed with them. So there may not be a meeting, but if you will go to your chat box, make sure I send it to everybody. Oh goodness, that link was way too long. Hold on one second.
You should exit out of your presentation probably.
Let's see. Here we go. So if you go to that link, the yellow column is for you to use to access, so you can just search by department. I think many of you have already gotten this information from your department chair, but we will break now, and if you are meeting with your departments and don't have that link, your guest link is in that yellow column.
Thank you to everyone that came this evening. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you got something useful and that you will reach out to us if you think of anything else that would be useful for you as a faculty member. Have a great evening. We'll see you guys on campus hopefully soon. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you. I'm going to keep the recording for a minute to see if any of those, I didn't see if anybody posted their name in there.
A couple did.
No, those are all ones I have though. So
Okay.
Okay, Bianca did help me with that one.
Mm-hmm, she did. Did you see? These are already in there.
Yeah, I'm still missing a few. So.
Well, when we send out the survey, just put in the email, hey, reply to this with your name, and that way we know that we have all of them again, right? I mean, we can print out a list of all. We could actually attach who was there.
We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. What day is tomorrow? Thursday. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to head over to math and science.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
You good?
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.